Welcome back, Unstoppable fans. I'm back here with Parker Jensen, Richie Wright, and Arjun Call to go over what happened in this past weekend Super Bowl. Um, None of our score predictions were right. We all overshot it. Thought it would be a high scoring game, but otherwise, we got a little more into the nitty gritty last time. We talked about what we thought our keys to the game were. All three of you guys said the defense would be huge, and it ended up being that way. Arjun, do you want to kick us off with talking about what do you think happened there?
Yeah, so my score prediction was 30-24 Tampa Bay. Close with 30 for Tampa Bay, but Casey did not show up at all. And a large factor of that was the Tampa Bay defense. That front line put so much pressure on him. It was the most pressure he's ever had in his whole career. And with his kind of O line being injured, we definitely saw how much of an impact the defensive line did have on him. So, yeah, defense, as I kind of mentioned, was going to be my key. They were able to double team Hill throughout the whole game and limit him. Travis Kelce is pretty much the only receiver who did anything for the Kansas City Chiefs. And a lot of that was near the fourth quarter when they were kind of just playing prevent defense. So we did not see Kansas City show up at all. And that's why they won 31-9.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. My score was 28-23. I was on the wrong side. I picked the Chiefs to win, but I thought it would be a close game decided by the defense, maybe a big stop in the fourth quarter. But it really was just big stops throughout the game. Also hampered by injured offensive line for Kansas City, missing Eric Fisher, among others. And that really just threw them off the entire night, it seemed. Mahomes scrambling so much more than anything else that the offense put up numbers wise. Uh, a bit sad, honestly, because I was really hoping to see a great QB showdown. But you got to give it to the defense and Todd Bowles. He really knew what to do, and the defense stepped it up. And also, speaking of defenses, the Kansas City defense was a bit sloppy, especially in the first half, with a lot of penalties against them, especially with the one interception, no interception taken back, and then leading to another touchdown by Tampa Bay. It was defenses that decided this Super Bowl.
Well, I got to agree with both of you guys. Obviously, I noted the defense that was going to be the key to this game, but I also noted the quarterback play. And all props to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, there's not much you can do when you're scrambling around the field, going for 500 yards, scrambling, trying to find someone open down the field, especially when Tyreek Hill was double teamed throughout the entire night and couldn't get open. He gave it his all that night. But it was really, you can't bet against Tom Brady. That was the biggest takeaway I saw from last night. Tom Brady, 21 for 28 or 29, one of the two, but still putting out an electric performance. 3 touchdowns, 2 to Gronk. So we saw that connection there. So I think Brady's play, well, it wasn't the best. He only got 201 passing yards last night. Even though that was there, he seemed to be doing well. He was able to control that offense and really control the tempo. Patrick Mahomes, too, again, he gave it his all. We saw him lay out, throw horizontally at times, just stuff that we don't see quarterbacks do, especially when we're talking, comparing it against Tom Brady. I mean, this man could run. He was throwing everything that he could possibly throw at him. Just receivers weren't open down the field, and you had Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce can't carry the whole offense, especially when you're going against Tom Brady and the Bucs here. So credit to both quarterbacks, but it seems at the end of the day, the quarterback play wasn't really what was the deciding factor. It was what we noted in the previous episode. It was the defense that really carried this game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you guys more. It was really the defenses that decided this game. It wasn't what I said. I said it would be the secondary kind of skill players. It didn't really pan out that way. I guess it did a little bit in the run game. You saw Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones kind of having some success and not much success at all for the Chiefs running the ball. That would have allowed the Bucs to open it up more, but really, all credit to the Bucs defense for shutting down really anything that the Chiefs tried to do outside of Travis Kelce catching it in the middle of the field, which is pretty hard to stop to begin with. Moving on, Tom Brady did win yet another Super Bowl MVP award. His stats were pretty good. They were efficient. They weren't something eye-popping. He went 21 for 29 for 201 yards, 3 touchdowns, and -2 rush yards. So I just want to note that he went under 200 yards overall in the game. My biased self, but he wasn't the only one who didn't have a great statistical game. nobody really on the Bucks had over 100 yards in any capacity. The only person in the game who had over 100 yards was Travis Kelce, but he was on the losing side of the ball. So, do you guys think that Brady deserved this Super Bowl MVP despite a mediocre stat line? Or do you think he really earned it based on how the game flow went and how everything else played into it? Richie, I'm gonna start with you.
I would say initially I was a little surprised that he got it, but thinking about it some more, I think it's very much deserving. He played a clean game, no turnovers, which is huge coming off of that NFC Championship game where he threw a few interceptions. And he did what he had to: 3 passing touchdowns, 2 to Gronk, which were huge in the first half. And again, just I think no mistakes is a big theme here, especially when a lot of the other players were very mediocre in terms of individual stats. I mean, you could make an argument that somebody on defense deserves it, but I think that was more of a team effort on the defense of Tampa Bay. You can't really single out one person. I think Tom Brady is deserving of this. I think his QBR for the Super Bowl is actually his highest ever, over 125. So that's just another reason I think Brady was deserving of another Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, if I can give this award out to any particular unit, it would have to be the D-line, right? The Bucks D-line absolutely deserves this award. I mean, getting Patrick Mahomes to run around the field like that, I mean, if you can give it to that unit, you definitely would. But besides that, I have to agree with Richie. Tom Brady's the only person that you could have given it to at that point. Who are you going to give it to? Leonard Fournette potentially? Gronkowski for those 2 touchdowns? I mean, when you really see the game broken down, you can see how much Tom Brady had an effect on this team. And not even in just this game. I mean, in the week coming up to it, Tom Brady would text in the group chat, "We are going to win this game." I mean, he is the leader. He is the one who brought everyone together. And you can really see that he is just the general of this team. So, you know, despite the stats that we saw on the field, they might not be the 300 yards or 400 yards or 500 yards that we might have expected from either of these 2 quarterbacks, right? You can still see his effect on the game. And I think that's what really solidified him as the NFL or the Super Bowl MVP for this year. But again, really wanted to give that D-line though. I mean, Shaq Barrett just going off and doing what he needed to do during that game. But I think Tom Brady was definitely deserving of the Super Bowl MVP.
Adding on to Parker, even the defensive secondary was playing amazing. I mean, they had Tyreek Hill locked up. A lot of the pressure was because he had no one open to throw to either. But definitely Tom Brady did deserve this MVP. As we've said, he played a clean game with no errors. And this was his best passer rating game of any Super Bowl. And for him to control the clock, you know, he didn't even throw the ball in the 4th quarter at all. They kind of just handed it off. And because of how much they were up and he was able to control the game, it put them in the position to be able to just control the clock, win the game comfortably with a 31-9 victory. So Tom Brady definitely did deserve to win his 5th Super Bowl MVP.
See, I can understand where you guys are coming from that. I just think that the Bucks defense probably deserves a little bit more recognition for holding one of the best offenses that we've seen in the league to 3 field goals in the Super Bowl. But you know, we've seen this happen before, and the defense doesn't necessarily get the recognition. It's kind of tough to pick one defensive player, and in this case, it definitely really was kind of murky. And Tom Brady is, I think, does turn out to be the best option for the award. Beyond that, I just want to throw it out to you guys for some closing thoughts. If you had any takes you had on the league going forward, what this might mean for either of these 2 teams in particular. For Tom Brady's legacy, just anything you wanted to bring up. We'll start with you, Parker.
Well, Tom Brady, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is the greatest athlete of all time. Doing what he was able to do in this game, controlling it the way that he was able to control the game, putting up the numbers that he put up, and beating Patrick Mahomes in the way that he did. I think that Tom Brady is the greatest athlete I've seen in my lifetime. But aside from that, I think they're going to be able to go back next year. I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to rally around this victory and get there, at least to the NFC Championship next year, if not into the Super Bowl and winning it again for a second time, going back to back, something Kansas City was trying to do in this game. And looking at Kansas City, I don't think this is really going to affect Kansas City in the way that a lot of people think it would. I think it's very difficult for a team to go back to back in the way that Kansas City was trying to do. The Patriots did it, sure, but they might be the greatest dynasty we've ever seen in the NFL. So I don't think Kansas City's going anywhere. They still have their key weapons. They still have Hill. They still have Travis Kelce. They still have Patrick Mahomes. They're not going anywhere. And Andy Reid, from what I've seen, isn't going to go anywhere either. I think Kansas City is going to stay the dominant threat in the AFC. And I think in the NFC, the Bucs really are here to stay. As long as they can get some guys to come in here, we have some one-year contracts, so it's going to be interesting to see what Gronk's going to do, what AB's going to do. I think Fournette will definitely stay, and I think Mike Evans has a pretty solid future down there in Tampa Bay. So as long as they can get some additional pieces to potentially replace people on one-year contracts, I think they're going to be good to go for a while. I don't think Tom Brady's going to slow down at all. And I think we might potentially see this matchup again in the years to come.
Yeah, adding on to Parker, some of the defensive players also are free agents. So we'll see what happens with Shaq Barrett and if they can replace some of those key players. However, when you look at the NFC, I definitely do see them in the championship game again, because I don't know what's going to happen with the Saints and what their quarterback situation is going to be like. I don't see Rodgers having the same MVP performance again next year, or what's going to happen with the Packers anymore. The Rams now got Matt Stafford. That might take a year or two to develop. And so I definitely do see them back in the NFC Championship game again. Now, for the AFC, I don't think this will be a big hindrance on Patrick Mahomes. He's a very confident player. However, this gives time for other players to develop themselves, such as Josh Allen. You saw how good the Bills were towards the end of the season. Or even Lamar Jackson, if he can start proving himself in the playoffs, it's going to be great to see what the AFC is going to be like. Or if the Chiefs are just going to cakewalk through the AFC the way the Patriots used to do. But it would be great to maybe see this matchup again next year. But I definitely do have Tampa Bay being able to be in the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl again next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tampa Bay definitely has the confidence now that if they didn't have it before, they have it now going into the next season, that they believe they can win another Super Bowl championship. I'm not so sure if they will make the Super Bowl again. I think there are some other teams that will rise to the occasion that we may not be thinking of right now. And also, as all Super Bowl champions, they're going to be scrutinized more in the off season, find ways to try to pick them apart. But I think they're definitely going to be a top 5 contender in the NFC for sure. And then on the AFC, I think the Chiefs, you have to look at them. I don't think this is a big loss per se in terms of their future, especially Mahomes' future. I think it's actually a healthy setback for him, so he can deal with like the biggest loss you can have, and how he regroups from that mentally, physically, and the whole team as well. And speaking of the Chiefs, I think it's important to note just how the staff might have been affected during the game, given Andy Reid's son and his accident a couple days before. It's just a tragic thing. Hopefully everybody's okay that was involved. But back to the Chiefs, I think they're still somebody that's going to be the top favorite for the AFC Championship game. You might look to Josh Allen and say what he can do, or you might look to some other players, maybe Lamar Jackson, if he finally shows up and can go that far. But I think these are two teams that you're going to look at to be clear favorites to make the championships on both sides.
Yeah, Richie, you said that it would be a healthy setback for Mahomes. I think it's just a healthy setback for the league. I think it really does open the door for guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson to kind of also compete in the AFC, even if the Chiefs are still going to be really, really good. Otherwise, thank you all for coming. Thank you for being willing to talk about our incorrect predictions after the fact as well. Check us out on our social media on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for our usual GW sports coverage. Until next time.